Gotti, say your prayers. You better say your prayers.
You know they coming, don't you?
Remember when Wack 100 said the feds are coming for Yo Gotti after Dolph's murder? Well, he wasn't capping because new footage of Yo Gotti in jail is going viral. Hold up, how did the feds shockingly close in on Yo Gotti? Word is one of the shooters allegedly snitched. Let me break it down. The web of allegations. Young Dolph was fatally shot on November 17, 2021, in Memphis, Tennessee, in what prosecutors later described as a targeted hit. The whole city knew this wasn't no random lick. This was some calculated, professional type shit that had money and organization behind it. Two masked up shooters hopping out of white Benz, spraying up the spot like they was military trained. That's the kind of work that costs serious paper and requires serious connections. But what's really got the feds interested is the web of evidence that's been unraveling, pointing straight back to Anthony Big Jook Mims Yo Gotti's blood brother and one of the top dogs at CMG. Court testimony during Justin Johnson's trial in September 2024 revealed that prosecutors alleged Big Jook ordered the hit, with Cornelia Smith confirming plans to carry it out for a $100,000 payout. Now, when we talking about 100 stacks for a body, that ain't no street level beef money. That's corporate assassination type bread. The real question that's got everybody from the suburbs to the trap houses buzzing is whether Big Jook was moving on his own or if he was following orders from higher up the food chain. And when you talking about CMG, ain't but one nigga at the very top, Mario Mims himself. The streets been knowing that Big Jook don't move without his little brother's blessing, especially when we talking about dropping that kind of money on a hit. What's really wild is how the internet thugs and keyboard gangsters been calling this shit from day one. Discussions on Reddit reflect a strong street level belief in Yo Gotti's involvement, often through his brother Big Jook. One comment that really hit different said, Gotti definitely disliked him intensely, but Jook and some street dealings with Dolph and his behind the scenes street guy Daddy O. Gotti has had some real beef with niggas in the city before, and he never took anyone out. I think this was more so all Jook, cause if Gotti was involved, they would have had more than 800 to pay niggas. But the most damning shit came from industry insider Wack 100, who basically put Gotti on blast and told him to start saying his prayers.
Now let's do the math. CMG and PRE shooting at the back in the Carolinas. Motherfuckers doing songs, shot the Sprinter 100 times, bulletproof, dead. PRE, they're gonna take it and paint the perfect movie. These two things are gang, and your gang paid this dude's attorney $50,000 because you hired him to do a hit for 100. They coming.
Damn.
I heard.
When Wack 100 is talking about the feds looking at CMG like it's a gang instead of a record label, you know some serious Rico type shit is about to go down. That's the kind of federal attention that can turn a multi-million-dollar empire into a memory real quick. The money trail is what's really got the feds interested, because $100,000 for a hit don't just materialize out of thin air. Prosecutors claim Big Jook put out a hit on Dolph, but Gotti's direct involvement remains unproven and controversial. But here's the thing. When you're talking about that kind of paper being allocated for a murder, somebody with serious financial authority had to sign off on that shit. And in the CMG organization, there ain't too many people with that level of juice except for Gotti himself. The testimony from Cornelia Smith Jr., one of the alleged shooters, is what really cracked this whole case open like a piñata. This dude basically laid out the whole operation on the witness stand, talking about how he was promised $40,000 but only got $800 for his part in the murder. Smith claimed he only received $800 before his arrest in January 2022, leading to his testimony against Johnson. When you stiff a shooter on his payment, you basically turning him into a government witness. That's street 101 type shit that any real player should know better than to do. What's really got people's attention is how this alleged conspiracy was supposedly structured. Prosecutors, led by Shelby County Deputy District Attorney Paul Hagerman, claimed that Big Jook offered the hit to Johnson as a means to secure a recording deal with CMG, highlighting the feud between CMG and PRE. So we ain't just talking about street beef anymore. We talking about using murder as a business strategy, mixing blood with the music industry in ways that got the whole game looking sideways. The timing of all this shit is suspect as hell too. Young Dolph getting murdered right when CMG was hitting their biggest commercial success, right when Yo Gotti was finally getting his flowers on the mainstream level. That ain't no coincidence. For a lot of people who understand how this game really works, the idea that such a major decision could be made without the CEO's knowledge and approval is straight laughable. The prosecution's whole theory revolves around this being way more than just personal beef. They painting a picture of a calculated business move, where Young Dolph's independence and success was seen as such a threat to CMG's dominance that elimination was the only option. The feud between CMG and Paper Route Empire, with Big Jook playing a key role in CMG, provides a backdrop for the murder. When you really break it down, every Dolph success was basically a CMG failure. Every independent move was proof that artists didn't need the CMG machine to blow up in Memphis. The legal experts been watching this case like hawks because this is exactly the type of situation that federal prosecutors love to build RICO cases around.
But wouldn't it be smart to blame it on the dead man, though?
No,
Nah,
he
but
was part of the company. They
Yeah,
saying
okay.
CMG, they're going to classify it as a gang. They
Damn.
going to try to thug him.
That reference to blaming a dead man hits different when you consider that Big Jook got smoked in January 2024, conveniently taking out the main witness who could have potentially flipped on the whole operation. The pattern of violence surrounding this whole situation is what's really got people's attention. Big Jook getting assassinated right after being implicated in Dolph's murder. Big Jook was killed on January 13th, 2024, in a targeted assassination-style shooting outside a Memphis restaurant, with no suspects identified as of recent reports. That's the kind of convenient timing that makes conspiracy theorists and federal investigators equally suspicious. This is potentially the exposure of how a criminal enterprise can completely infiltrate and corrupt the music industry. The allegations against Yo Gotti, while still unproven in court, represent a watershed moment for hip-hop culture, forcing the community to confront some real uncomfortable truths about the relationship between artistic success and alleged criminal activity. The decade-long war. The whole shitstorm started brewing back when young Dolph was still coming up, and Yo Gotti tried to bring him under the CMG umbrella. The feud reportedly began in 2014 when young Dolph turned down an offer to join Yo Gotti's record label, Collective Music Group, CMG. Now, in the Memphis rap game, where respect and hierarchy mean everything, this wasn't just some regular business decision. This was perceived as straight disrespect to Gotti's authority and his status as the self-proclaimed king of Memphis hip-hop. But Dolph wasn't content to just quietly decline the offer and keep it moving. Nah, this dude made his independence his whole brand identity, constantly reminding the world that he chose to build his own paper route empire instead of bowing down to what many would have considered a blessed opportunity.
Paper Route and CMG. You know what I mean? Like, that's my label. Paper Route Empire.
Right.
Every time you see me, you're gonna see some PRE ice. You know what I mean? Like, for real, for real.
This wasn't just brand building. This was a direct middle finger to the established order in Memphis rap. The personal nature of this rejection becomes crystal clear when you peep Gotti's own words about the situation. During his 2017 appearance on The Breakfast Club, Gotti pulled out his phone and showed text messages going back to 2012, demonstrating years of attempted recruitment.
That's how you gotta approach this shit, homie. Just gotta stay down and make the right decisions and you can win big, my nigga.
These messages revealed more than just business interest. They showed what looked like genuine big brother mentorship from Gotti toward the younger artist. However, when Dolph got his chance to tell his side of the story on The Breakfast Club, he painted a completely different picture of these interactions.
It ain't no pressure with me. You know what I'm saying? Cause it's like people don't understand, like everybody on the outside looking in. Yo Gotti was texting my phone for 2 years straight. What you doing, bro? What you working on, bro? Let's do this.
According to Dolph, what Gotti saw as mentorship felt more like harassment and attempted control over his career moves. The business dynamics of this whole situation reveal exactly what was at stake. Dolph wasn't just any unsigned artist trying to make it. He was already showing signs of the independent success that would eventually make him millions. Dolph chose to remain independent, launching his own label, Paper Route Empire, PRE, which created a competitive dynamic in the Memphis rap scene. For Gotti, who had built CMG into a powerhouse by signing and developing local talent, losing Dolph to independence wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was allegedly a fundamental challenge to his whole business model and his position as the gatekeeper of Memphis rap's success. The beef escalated to a whole different level in 2016 when Dolph dropped his album, The King of Memphis, a title that was basically a declaration of war against Gotti's self-proclaimed status. This album, peaking at number 49 on the Billboard charts, marked a significant escalation, with Dolph using social media to taunt Gotti, referring to Memphis as Dolphland, and positioning himself as the city's top rapper. This wasn't just artistic competition. This was a public challenge to the hierarchy that Gotti had spent years building. The music both artists dropped during this period showed just how personal this shit had become. Dolph's track, Play With Yo Bitch, was aimed directly at Gotti's head, while Gotti responded with Don't Beef With Me, though he was careful not to mention Dolph by name. The feud intensified through diss tracks and public exchanges, with Dolph often being more vocal, using Twitter to highlight Gotti's alleged jealousy and past attempts to sign him. The fact that Dolph was way more direct and aggressive in his approach suggests he felt like he had less to lose in escalating the conflict. But what transformed this from typical rap beef into something way more dangerous was when street-level players got involved and the situation escalated to real violence. The first major incident went down in February 2017, when young Dolph's bulletproof SUV was shot at over 100 times in Charlotte, North Carolina. This wasn't just some drive-by shooting. This was a military-style assault that made national news and had law enforcement scratching their heads about how a rap beef could escalate to what looked like an attempted assassination. Dolph's response to the Charlotte shooting was pure gangster. Instead of laying low or getting security, this nigga performed a concert that same night and later turned the whole incident into promotion with his track 100 Shots. Dolph was unharmed and performed a concert that night, later releasing the single 100 Shots on his album Bulletproof, which debuted at number 36 on Billboard. While this showed incredible heart and resilience, it also probably escalated the situation by demonstrating that Dolph wasn't going to be intimidated. The Charlotte incident led to arrests and investigations, with Black Youngstar, a CMG artist, being charged but not convicted in May 2019. The fact that a CMG artist got implicated in the attack, even though charges were eventually dropped, established a pattern that prosecutors would later point to as evidence of CMG's alleged involvement in violence against Dolph. The violence kept escalating with another major incident in September 2017, when young Dolph was shot outside the Loews Hollywood Hotel in Los Angeles during a fight with 3 men. While Gotti was initially named as a person of interest, the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD, cleared him, stating he was not involved. But the fact that his name was even brought up in the investigation shows how law enforcement was starting to see patterns in the violence surrounding Dolph. The street perspective on these incidents has been consistent in pointing towards CMG's alleged involvement. Charleston White, who always keeps it 100 about hip-hop culture, broke down the underlying dynamic.
So them niggas hadn't even talked to Juke before. They just heard it was a $100,000 hit.
No, they talked to him on the phone on FaceTime a few times through a middleman. And I think they met him one or two times. But yeah, they called him right after that.
This commentary shows that even street-level observers understood there was a systematic campaign against Dolph that involved multiple parties and serious financial backing. This dynamic allegedly created a situation where Dolph's very existence as a successful independent artist posed an existential threat to CMG's business model. If other artists saw that they could achieve Dolph's level of success without signing to CMG, it could have completely undermined Gotti's ability to sign and retain talent. From this perspective, the alleged conspiracy to eliminate Dolph wasn't just about personal animosity. It was allegedly about protecting a business empire worth millions of dollars. The irony is that both artists were actually making good money and achieving success in their own lanes. But sometimes in this game, ego and pride can be more expensive than any business loss. The alleged decision to resolve this competition through violence, if proven true, represents one of the most catastrophic miscalculations in hip-hop history. Prosecution alleges this decade-long beef culminated in a $100,000 conspiracy that not only ended young Dolph's life, but may have also destroyed the very empire that the murder was allegedly designed to protect. When the streets collect their debt. What went down on November 17, 2021 was executed with the kind of precision that prosecutors argue could only come from serious planning and coordination. Young Dolph was fatally shot while purchasing cookies at Makeda's Homemade Butter Cookies in Memphis, suffering approximately 22 gunshot wounds to the head, back, chin, neck, and arms. The brutal efficiency of the execution, caught on surveillance cameras, showed 2 masked-up killers jumping out of white Benz and turning that cookie shop into a war zone that would end the life of one of Memphis's most successful independent artists. The timing of the murder, going down right before Dolph's planned Thanksgiving turkey giveaway, adds another layer of cruel irony to this case. Here was a nigga who used his success to give back to his community, planning to feed families in need, and he was allegedly killed by people who saw his very success as a threat. The prosecution's case highlighted surveillance footage from the day of the murder, showing 2 armed men exiting a white Mercedes and opening fire in broad daylight. The brazen nature of the attack, carried out in broad daylight at a spot Dolph was known to frequent, suggests a level of confidence and planning that prosecutors argue points to professional coordination. The investigation that followed Dolph's murder would eventually expose what prosecutors allege was a complex criminal conspiracy involving multiple parties and potentially reaching into the highest levels of CMG. Justin Johnson was convicted and sentenced to life in prison in September 2024 for his role as one of the shooters. But Johnson's conviction was just the opening act of a legal drama that continues to unfold, with other alleged conspirators still facing facing trial and potentially more damaging testimony on the horizon. The case against Hernandez-Govan, who prosecutors describe as the mastermind coordinator of the operation, is still pending trial, and his case could potentially reveal even more details about the alleged conspiracy. Hernandez-Govan, accused of masterminding the murder, is set for trial on August 18, 2025, after rejecting a plea deal. Govan's trial could potentially drop even more bombshells about the alleged command structure of the conspiracy and whether it reached beyond Big Jook to other CMG executives, possibly including Yo Gotti himself. But perhaps the wildest development in this whole case came in January 2024, when the alleged mastermind behind the conspiracy got his own violent send-off. Big Jook was killed on January 13, 2024, in a targeted assassination-style shooting outside a Memphis restaurant, with no suspects identified as of recent report. The timing of Big Jook's murder, coming just months after the damaging trial testimony that implicated him in Dolph's death, has been viewed by many as way too convenient to be coincidental. The circumstances surrounding Big Jook's death add another layer of street justice to an already complex case. He was reportedly leaving a repast, a gathering after a funeral, when he got smoked in what witnesses described as a professional hit. His mother was allegedly in the vehicle and had to run for her life, adding to the tragic nature of what appears to be an ongoing cycle of retaliation and violence. Industry insider Whack 100 has been particularly vocal about his belief that federal investigators are now looking at this case through a RICO lens, potentially viewing CMG as a criminal enterprise rather than just a record label. They can't bring him in for questioning or anything like that, so people would say that they might try to tie Yo Gotti into it since they can't get his brother. They're going to get him on the RICO conspiracy or something like that, and it might happen. The prospect of RICO charges against Yo Gotti would represent a seismic shift in how this case is prosecuted and could potentially expose the full extent of any alleged criminal enterprise operating within CMG. The street-level response to Big Jook's murder has been consistent with the theory that this was payback for Dolph's death. Terrence "Gangsta" Williams broke down the situation with some real street knowledge.
A lot of the celebrities, they have a voice, they do their music. But what people don't realize, when you have a beef, these are real street guys. It's just you have the voice. So people hear you, they don't hear me because, I'm in the hood or I'm down here. But I will still pull up and spray and do what I gotta do. So when you have those situations where they look at Big Jook, he did troll Young Dolph people.
This analysis suggests that Big Jook's alleged taunting of Dolph's associates after the murder may have signed his own death warrant. The impact of Dolph's murder on the Memphis community can't be overstated. Young Dolph's murder was a tragic event that brought Memphis's struggles with gun violence into sharp focus. The killing of someone who wasn't just a successful artist, but also a generous community figure, left lasting scars on a city already struggling with violence and economic challenges. The tributes that followed Dolph's death demonstrated just how deep his impact was on both the music industry and his local community. A posthumous album, Long Live Young Dolph, was released in 2022, featuring pre-artists. More recently, celebrations like dolphin-shaped cookies at Makeda's for his 40th birthday in July 2025 show his memory remains alive, proving that his legacy continues to inspire and unite the community even in death. But the most significant long-term impact of this case might be on the hip-hop industry itself. The allegations against CMG and the potential RICO investigation represent a watershed moment for an industry that has long struggled with the intersection of artistic expression and alleged criminal activity. If prosecutors are successful in proving that CMG operated as a criminal enterprise, it could set a precedent that fundamentally changes how record labels are investigated and prosecuted by federal authorities. Boozy, a veteran of the hip-hop game who knew both Young Dolph and Big Jook personally, dropped some real knowledge about the whole situation.
We don't say that when we egging on the beef. The whole world never say that when they egging on the beef. When everybody put on a song, everybody egging out, nobody don't be saying that.
Boozy's observation highlights one of the most fucked up aspects of this entire case, how the hip-hop community and media often celebrate and amplify rap beefs without considering their potential deadly consequences. The ongoing legal proceedings continue to reveal new details about the alleged conspiracy and its potential reach into CMG's operations. Cornelius Smith Jr. Osesa's trial status remains unclear, with no updates since the March 2025 date, suggesting possible delays due to legal complexities or scheduling. The fact that multiple trials are still pending means that more damaging testimony could drop, potentially further implicating those who have managed to avoid charges so far. The financial investigation into the alleged conspiracy has also raised serious questions about money laundering and the use of legitimate business operations to fund criminal activity. The $100,000 allegedly allocated for Dolph's murder represents serious bread that would have required authorization from someone with major financial authority within CMG. Industry observers been noting that such an expenditure would be difficult to hide from the label's primary decision makers, especially considering the tight-knit, family-run nature of businesses like CMG. The upcoming trials and potential federal investigations will likely provide more answers about the full scope of the alleged conspiracy and whether it truly reached into the highest levels of CMG. But regardless of the legal outcomes, this case has already exposed uncomfortable truths about how violence and alleged criminal activity can infect even the most successful corners of the music industry. In the end, the question that haunts this entire case isn't just who killed young Dolph or who allegedly gave the order. It's whether the hip-hop community and the broader music industry will learn from this tragedy and take meaningful steps to prevent similar violence in the future. The cost of maintaining street credibility and business dominance through alleged criminal means has proven to be higher than anyone could have imagined, claiming not just Dolph's life, but potentially destroying one of hip-hop's most successful business empires in the process. The streets are still talking, the feds are still investigating, and more trials are approaching. When the full truth about young Dolph's murder and the alleged conspiracy behind it finally emerges, it will likely reshape our understanding of how criminal enterprise can infiltrate legitimate business and the deadly consequences that can result when music industry competition allegedly turns lethal. The game has changed forever, and the reverberations from this case will be felt throughout hip-hop culture for years to come. Whether it leads to meaningful reform or just more sophisticated methods of hiding criminal activity remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: the hip-hop community will never look at the relationship between business success and street credibility the same way again. Love this video? Click on the cards on your screen for more like this.